Pompeo, former Secretary of State, Fox News contributor, tell us what the next card to be played here is, sir. Welcome back and good morning to you. Iran's parliament speaker said this. So this was Tuesday, 12:35 Iran time. We prefer, 12:34 I should say, we prefer the language of diplomacy, but we speak other languages far more fluently. Break your commitments and we'll switch to what we speak best. You ride the horse you saddle. You see a breakthrough here? Or are we going back to war?
Good morning, Bill. Good morning, Dan. It's great to be with you all. Look, in the end, I think that Iranian leader is in control of almost nothing, but I think his message is very clear. This regime is not going to go away without a lot more American pressure. They tried to kill 2 American pilots. They've now fired at multiple American military bases and our naval facilities in Bahrain, a military facility in Jordan. They're still trying to wipe the United States off this planet, and we need to keep that in mind. And so I think there's a lot more work that needs to be done. The regime is fractured. It is tired. President Trump is right. They are weaker, and we've taken out lots of their capability. But clearly, a well-defended Apache helicopter flying in the Strait was able to be downed by the Iranians. We need to make sure that that's not the case. You cannot open the Strait of Hormuz so long as a military aircraft can't fly there. We need to get this right. I think there's going to have to be more pressure, and we should not only do that with the U.S. military, with Israel's military and our Gulf Arab partners, but work inside of Iran as well. Open the internet up, support the resistance movement inside of that country. The people of Iran are desperate to know that the West is still with them, and a weaker regime combined with an effort inside the country can deliver an outcome that'll keep Americans safe.
Can we do all those things that you just mentioned inside Iran without boots on the ground?
Absolutely, Dana. We can do this through many, many tools, some of them overt, some of them clandestine. The United States has a lot of capabilities. The Israelis have a lot of capabilities. More importantly, I'm convinced the Iranian people have been working at this for a long time quietly. The Bashis, the military inside of Iran, still has a lot of power, but they are weaker and more confused today. And so I think this opportunity is a once-in-a-generation opportunity for the United States and Israel to deliver together an Iranian regime that is no longer a threat to the world.
Okay, J.D. Vance, CBS, on Sunday, talked about the future. Here he is.
Right now, I feel that we are in a position to get a deal that is good for the United States economically and that really does deal with the Iranian nuclear program, not just now, not just while Donald Trump is president, but for the long term, to where my kids can say when they're adults, Iran is not going to have a nuclear weapon. That's the goal of the policy, and I think we're very close to achieving that goal. But we've still got some wood to chop.
Some wood to chop. Could be weeks, could be months, depending on who you listen to. More of that interview coming up this weekend on CBS Sunday Morning. We had a guest last hour that said, just take out all the threats in the Strait of Hormuz, in the Persian Gulf. All right, that's 950 miles of shoreline. California's 840 miles of coastline. We gonna just take it all out? I mean, does that seem reasonable to you? Or is this a much bigger challenge than we, sitting here in the United States, have come to realize?
Bill, your point is very well taken. It is a significant undertaking, but it is one that we collectively, not just the United States, but the United States, our Gulf Arab allies, need to achieve. You can't reopen commerce until it's the case that the Iranian regime no longer either doesn't have the intent or the capability to go after traffic that's traveling in international waterways. We've got to do it. I'm confident that we can do that. And when that happens, when the blockade is in place, the Iranian regime is poorer, it is weaker, its navy and army, as President Trump talks about a lot, are no longer in existence. Those kind of things are absolutely achievable by the United States of America. You have to win. President Trump talked about this, Bill. He talked about surrender at the very beginning of this. In the end, that's what will have to be achieved. And then the regime, or what's left of it, will have to behave in a way that is just consistent with international norms. I'm confident we can do that, Bill.
Okay.
Thank
Dana?
you. No, that's okay, sir. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being on. Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube and catch full shows streaming now on Fox One.